So I just got out of the Joker movie last night, and my head is still spinning from what I watched last night. So I wanted to discuss it with you guys today, get your opinion. Would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments of just overall about the movie, what you thought about the movie, what really happened, what didn't happen. Because like I said, my head is spinning. I'm not sure if I liked it, loved it. I could say I liked it. Would I ever go watch it again? Probably not. But yeah, let's just go into spoilers. I mean, I'm not going to go scene through scene, spoiling the whole movie. But we can bring up certain topics because I would love to talk about, what the hell just happened and what we just watched. So basically the movie starts off with an animated cartoon of the Joker in the inspiration of the Looney Tunes, which I thought was quite brilliant, being that the Looney Tunes has kind of been banned for violence. I was a big Looney Tunes person growing up. I love, the Bugs Bunny, the cartoons. And then they kind of got canned because it was saying it's encouraging violence to young kids. It's going to make, them grow up and become violent. And that was the whole issue with Looney Tunes. So the fact that Todd Phillips, the director of the Joker, opened up this movie with the scene of the Joker inspired by the Looney Tunes, I thought was quite brilliant and a good opening to the movie. From there, it goes into, life of Arthur Fleck after the first movie. He's now in jail. You kind of really see what he's going through, like the struggle. They have him sedated on medications. He's, not really the same Arthur. He looks defeated. It really goes into the whole jail scene system of like really what goes on, just beating, the way these guys are treated, which is fine. They're criminals. They're there for murder. But, just really abusive by the guards. And it really goes more in depth into the character of the Joker and what happened to him after the first movie. So the movie in general, part 2, is basically the life of Arthur, what happened to him after the first movie. So the entire movie is basically him, in jail, about to go on trial for what he had, done in the first movie, committing, I think it was 6 or 7 crimes. He even jokes saying, they don't realize I killed my mother, so it's actually one more death that they don't know about. But yeah, basically the whole entire movie is just one long, it's very slow. The way I described it last night when I got out of the movie is it's a very slow movie. It's a very chaotic movie. It's a very disturbing movie. It's a very intense movie. And it's just, it really makes you think, especially about mental illness. This isn't the same way the first movie was. This isn't a movie about Batman. You could say this really isn't a movie about the Joker. To me, this isn't the Joker from the Batman universe, the same way the first movie was. It's more about a guy and his mental health and dealing with society. And then they sprinkle in elements of Gotham. You have they're located in Gotham. You have a few characters from the Batman universe, such as Joker. Harvey Dent is in it this time around, and obviously Harley Quinn, who is played by Lady Gaga. I enjoyed her performance in this movie. I've always been a fan of Lady Gaga, so if you didn't already know, or if you haven't heard, I'm sure you probably did, because that's one of the main criticisms of this movie is the movie is a musical, which I thought would be interesting, because the way I look at it is I don't think we needed a second movie after the first movie. But if they were going to do another movie, they might as well do something so different, so absurd as a musical, that I felt like, okay, yeah, let's just do something completely out of left field and do something different. Because really the first one didn't need a follow-up. So I'm not sure if it was a musical first and then they brought in Lady Gaga, or they had the idea of Lady Gaga and then they decided to make it a musical. I wasn't really sure what to think going into that being a musical. I have no problem with musicals. I like musicals. I'm a big fan of Disney. I'm used to, characters breaking out into song and dance out of nowhere. So I don't really have an issue with musicals. So yeah, there's moments throughout the movie where they break out into song and dance. And honestly, I felt like it kind of worked. So, he could be in the jail 1 second, and then all of a sudden he starts singing and dancing. But what I liked about the musical aspect of it is it kind of breaks out into these happy type songs. But then as soon as the song is over, you get that creepy, dark music right after that just kind of solidifies the fact that he is absolutely insane. There's moments where he's singing and then he snaps two out of it and it was all in his head. So you don't really know, again, it's like the first movie. You don't really know what's really happening and what's all in his head. Is the whole movie in his head? I probably think everything happened, and I'll get to more of that in the end. I'm a little bit mixed on what happened and what didn't happen. But yes, the movie isn't. So listen, if you don't like musicals and if you're not a fan of Lady Gaga, you're probably not going to like this movie. For me, I am a fan of musicals, and I do like Lady Gaga. I'm a big fan of Lady Gaga. I've known about Lady Gaga before she even became famous. I remember her, touring different radio stations, trying to get her music played. And overnight, then when, it was like, boom, she just blew up out of nowhere, and then everybody knew who she was. And till this day, I still support and appreciate what she does in terms of her own life. I think she's a very positive person and, trying to help people. So I do feel like she was a good choice bringing her in for the importance of raising awareness about mental health. Because again, that's what this movie is about. It's about mental health. It's slow. It's disturbing. If you don't understand mental health, maybe that's why it's getting so much flack for, not being a good movie. I'm someone that deals with mental health, so I kind of understand what's going on, and I kind of, feel, understand and feel for the character in ways that maybe other people may not. I kind of relate to the character in certain ways with mental health. And I'm kind of glad that they do make these type of movies to raise, awareness for mental health, because I don't think most people understand how important it is, and how bad, this society is these days with mental health. It's always been an issue, but it seems like, the world's getting, as Arthur would say, does it seem like the world's getting crazier out there? Yeah, it does. But basically, the song and dance is a way for Arthur to cope with his mental illness. And again, I feel like it works well to show how crazy he is. The singing and the music, again, helps him cope with the fact, the way his life went. And now that he's in this, this jail system, the way he's being treated, he's almost like he's like a star because of the first movie. Everybody was rooting for him. He kind of, got people riled up. All the other lunatics in the world were all riled up and, cheering him on, as the Joker. And in this movie, he becomes kind of, a celebrity. The same way we have documentaries being made of serial killers and books being written about serial killers. The same thing happens to him in this movie. He kind of becomes a star. Maybe that's in his head. Again, we don't know, but he has his own book. They made a documentary about him, so a lot of people know about him, and everything that he did. Obviously he killed somebody on national TV and caused a huge disruption in the first movie, so people are going to know who he is anyway. But it goes into also, it ties back into the first movie of how it was that slow, he was a performer in the first movie. He was a comedian, but also his movements of when he's doing the dances, those very slow, disturbing movements. It goes into that whole performance again. And I think that's what Todd Phillips was going for when he introduced this as a musical. And I think he purposely made this movie to make you think what is real and what isn't real. Because after the first movie, that did happen. Everybody was thinking, did the whole movie really happen? Did it not happen? I believe Todd Phillips said, the movie really did happen. It wasn't all in his head, or I could be wrong. It was one of those. But yeah, I feel like the musical kind of plays into his whole disturbance, the slow movements of the dance. Obviously, this time they added in actual music. As far as the music goes, I liked the music. We have, Arthur, the way he sings, it's not like it breaks out, it's not like it breaks out into some huge musical performance that sounds like it should be on Broadway. We're hearing Arthur singing, somebody that's not a good singer. And again, like I said, it's disturbing, and then it breaks down into that creepy music as soon as the musical's over, or sometimes the music ends and you realize he's just sitting still, and it never really happened. It was all in his head. The way Lady Gaga, Harley Quinn, in this movie, she's just called Lee, but they do reference her as Harley Quinn. The way they meet is through music. So again, they're kind of bringing the fact that this musical is bringing these two characters together. He is allowed to leave the prison system and go back to more of like the asylum, mentally insane areas, to where they're treated better. They're allowed to sing and have gospel, whatever you want to call it. It's a happier life outside of the actual jail that Arthur is currently in, and that's where he meets Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn quickly gravitates towards him. She's aware of him. She says, I watched your documentary, the book. I'm aware of your character. She's supposedly in jail because she burned down her apartment complex and killed her parents, or at least her mother, I think it was, or her father. And that's why she's in jail. And then later on in the movie, we kind of find out that maybe she made all of that up just to get closer to Arthur. So again, it goes into like what's really happening, what's not really happening. But the two of them together, I thought was really great. The way, I thought Lady Gaga was going to come into this because she's, a professional singer. I thought it was just going to be like the Lady Gaga show, and she's going to, start belching out these high notes. So when she's doing her, whole song and dance as well, she's singing like a normal everyday person, which I appreciated it. It didn't become like the focus on Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga. It didn't become like a Lady Gaga movie. So I appreciate that they kind of toned her down a little bit. But then it does slowly build up later on in the movie. She does become, more pronounced with her, her singing. All of a sudden her singing does sound better and more, produced, and more of like, Lady Gaga type voice singing, which is fine. I'm glad that they started it off slow to where it sounded like nobody could actually sing. And then it goes more into more of like a production type of music. But overall, in general, the movie I thought was beautifully shot. I thought the cinematography was absolutely brilliant. The way the movie was filmed, I thought was absolutely brilliant. The movie is slow. The movie is mostly just like I said, him in a jail and in a court scene. He's in court trying to defend himself and his actions. In his mind, I don't think he really knows what he wants. I don't think he really doesn't even want to get out of jail until he meets Harley. Harley kind of inspires him to, like, she, revitalizes him. Like, he's nothing. He was a slouch. He was getting beat up in jail. He's being treated like trash. And then the second he meets Harley, he finds hope that, I want to keep going on. I want to, get back out in the world and be the Joker again. So she kind of influences him to, like, snap back into reality, if you will, if he has a reality, and just get back out there. And he's like, they have these plans to conquer and take over when they get out. So yeah, like I said, overall the movie is, I thought the movie was quite brilliant. Did it need to be made? No. I mean, we could have stopped after the first movie. Was it nice to see some of the character interactions again between, because we see the interactions between the characters from the first movie again. They come into the, the courtroom scene or whatever. There are interactions again between Arthur and these other characters from the first movie. I did kind of like to see that. I like to see where that went. Kind of gives you a little bit of a follow-up of what happened after the first movie. So that was interesting to watch. But is this a movie I would watch again? No. Do I like the fact that I watched it in the first place? Yes. I'm glad that I went to go see it. I was hooked. I was, like, on the edge of my seat the whole entire movie, just in terms of how intense the movie is. It's really disturbing and depressing. Probably more depressing than the first movie was. So again, it has to do with mental health. So if you're someone that struggles with mental health, and I know there are people that wouldn't watch the first movie because they feel like, they are sufferers from mental health and they felt like it was just going to trigger something inside of them, yeah, it's probably not the movie for you. It definitely, triggered some things in my own brain watching this movie. It's really sad to see what he goes through. It's weird, like the same way the first movie was. It kind of makes you root for him a little bit, feel sorry for him. Meanwhile, the guy's, a killer. And yeah, it's just a really slow, intense, chaotic. At one point you're like, what the heck is going on? And saying to yourself, do I like it? One thing I can say is be open-minded. Go into this movie, be open-minded. Don't go into it thinking, I went into this movie without reading reviews. I didn't read any reviews. I heard the reviews were bad, but I did not read any of them. So hopefully you didn't either. Don't get persuaded by, the negative comments. It seems like, in general, there's a lot of negativity in this world. I'm not that type of person. I like to stay positive. I'm not out to trash everything. I like to give things a chance. So I went into this movie with very, low expectations. And again, I was on the edge of my seat at just how intense and disturbing it was. The way Joaquin Phoenix plays this role is absolutely insane. It's intense. The guy deserves recognition once again for this role. The movie starts off and, they're showing him in jail. He's basically stripped down to nothing. The guy's basically naked. And I couldn't believe how skinny he was again. I think he looks skinnier in this movie than he did the first movie, to the point where I couldn't even believe it. I thought maybe it was just like, prosthetics or some type of CGI. I don't know if he really lost that much weight again, but the guy puts everything into this role. He plays the character so well, and again, he deserves, accolades for this performance. I thought it was quite brilliant. Again, I think the movie overall is really brilliant, the way everything was done. As far as the story, no, it's not, a mind-blowing story that's going to be like, wow, that was the greatest story ever. No. But it's a story about his struggles with mental health, and it's beautifully shot. It's beautifully told, and he puts on one hell of a performance that I believe it's worth seeing at least once. So go into this movie open-minded. Don't judge it off of the first scene, second scene, and say it sucks, I'm walking out of the theater, like some people have said. stay with it, because it's one of those movies that builds up over time, and intensifies to the ending. It's very similar to the first movie. The first movie, we had this very slow movie, and then the final 5 minutes at the end, he's the Joker, on top of the car, smearing the blood across his face, and then we had this big climatic moment. You kind of have that again with this movie. It's leading up to this big climatic ending. And again, you don't get this. There's things that it goes into, and I'll mention a few spoilers real quick. So, obviously, you probably already seen in the trailers, the courtroom. He escapes out of the courtroom. The courtroom explodes. It reminded me, we just had 9/11 not too long ago. Very similar to 9/11, just ashes and clouds of smoke everywhere. People laying on the floor dead. People not knowing what's happening. People just disoriented, what just happened, that he's able to, walk out of the courtroom. The whole entire wall just blew up from a car bomb. So we're under the presumption that maybe it was Harley Quinn that let him out. We don't know. Most likely not. Because once he escapes, his fans are out there. They grab him. They take him. He runs off. He finds Harley. Harley is actually living in the old building. And again, it goes to the disturbance of Harley Quinn, their relationship. She's so disturbed that we don't even know if she really killed her parents and did all these bad things. But she's on the court steps, not the court steps, she's on the steps, and it's located in the Bronx. She's on the steps, the famous Joker steps from the first movie, because she rented an apartment in that building, and he knows that's where she is, and he goes there, and she's like, you gave up. You were supposed to put on this whole Joker performance during the courtroom scene, and you gave up, and this is where our story ends. And again, it starts making you think, well, did this all just really happen? In my mind, I do feel like it all happened. One thing I noticed throughout the movie is he's constantly smoking cigarettes, and she's constantly smoking cigarettes. Yes, you can get those type of items in jail. Maybe he was able to get a lot of that because he was somewhat of a celebrity in jail. He had connections to the guards, even though they treated him like crap, but they were giving him cigarettes. But I thought it was very strange that only the Joker himself and Lady Gaga, Harley Quinn, were the only two characters smoking in the jail throughout the whole entire movie, which made me believe, well, maybe this isn't really going on. It's kind of weird. Like, it felt like the focus, I felt like that was done on purpose to only have them two smoking, to show that maybe, the same way they did with the first movie, how the clock was always at the same time. It kind of made you think, like, well, maybe that was done intentionally, so that you realize that this was all in his head. And again, I think it was done on purpose. I think, Todd Phillips saw the success and how it got people talking about the first movie, whether it really happened or not. And I think he played off of that and purposely made this movie with no right or wrong answer. There is no answer as to whether it happened or not. It's left up until your interpretation. And it gets you thinking. And I kind of like that he did that. Maybe it happened. Maybe it didn't happen. It makes you think. And that's what I really like about it. So I won't go into too many spoilers other than that. Again, at the end of the jail scene, the jail blows up. We get a glimpse of Harvey Dent. His face is torn off on one side. So again, we get a little Easter egg of Two-Face. Joker himself, he was... like in the courtroom scene, he was putting on this big show. I'm the Joker, he was supposed to get out of jail, and then he came to this realization, you know what, I just want to be a normal person. I don't want to be the Joker. And that's why Harley got upset with him. She was like, you're nobody now. You're not who I thought you were. You're not the Joker, and now I don't want to be with you. So again, it goes into a lot of mental health disturbance, but because he's defeated once again at the end, to where he doesn't want to be the Joker again, and again, it probably had to do with Harley. Harley kind of walked out of the courtroom. She was very disappointed when he said, "I don't want to be the Joker," and she kind of just left him there. He felt defeated. He's sitting there, and he actually gets stabbed at the end of the movie. One of the guys he was helping in the beginning of the movie, and that was supposed to be like his pal, ends up stabbing him to death at the end of the movie, and he dies. Again, did that really happen? I think so. But after the guy stabs him, there's this glimpse of the guy in the background. It's all blurred out, but you can see it. You can make out what's going on. The guy stabs him. Joker's, bleeding out on the floor, and the guy behind him that was stabbing him all of a sudden develops the creepy laugh. All of a sudden, this guy starts taking on the Joker personality, and you can actually see him take the same blade and then slice both sides of his, lips to give him the real Joker smile. No makeup. He literally, cut his mouth open, Heath Ledger style, to where he would have the scars as the Joker. So it makes you think, well, where is this going moving forward? Are they going to make another movie? Is it going to stop here? Is this guy in the background now supposed to be the Joker? Or is it what it's always been about the first movie? There is no one Joker. This is meant to... In my mind, Arthur Fleck never was the Joker. Maybe he's just inspiration for the future of the Joker, which we've seen a few times now. So, again, it's a lot going on in this movie that makes you think. I definitely recommend going out and watching it. Don't fall into the negativity of the reviews. Again, this movie, it may have not been the greatest story. We may not have needed this movie, but heck, it was definitely worth watching. I enjoyed it. But if you can't get over the whole musical thing that people are singing every so often, and if you're a hater of Lady Gaga, there's a lot of haters in this world, yeah, you're probably not going to like the movie. But I recommend seeing it. Don't go watching it because it's a Joker movie. If you enjoyed the first one, know that it's very similar to the first one. It's about a guy struggling with mental health. So hopefully I covered most of the Easter eggs. I didn't want to give away too much. I just want to, keep the video a little bit short. We're getting, almost into 30 minutes here. But yeah, let me know. I'm sure I missed things that I wanted to talk about, but let me know in the comments what you guys think, because there's a lot that went on that I probably forgot, and definitely want to discuss it more in the future, especially with my, my fellow Rogues guys. They're all, big Batman guys. We're going to discuss this and really break it down and try to figure out what went on. But still, in my head, I'm thinking, we're not supposed to know what went on, and that's how I left that movie. But still, my head is still spinning. I'm like, what did I watch? But I gotta say, it's one. Joaquin Phoenix puts on one hell of a performance that's worth watching. So that's all for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the movie. If you didn't, again, let me know down below in the comments. Let's discuss this movie. And yeah, that was it. So take care, and I'll see you soon.